So as I said, from principle point of view, we see the very clear relationships between human rights and religions. But in practice, of course, it's completely different. And this leads to our second question conversation that, in your opinion, how each major religion, in this case, Catholic, Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam, works out, in practice. Um, as I said, I mentioned about Buddhism already in practice, but there might be some other examples, which could be positive and negative, depends on how you perceive. So may I start with Dr. Fuadi this time?
Thank you very much. A great conversation. Let me go back to the framework I lay out, religion, or for my case, Islam as a source, and then as a source and the actual practice and constraint and how to overcome it, right? Islam as a source. For Islam, we talk about human rights being natural law, being something that already exists by nature. But for Islam, these rights are actually God's given rights, and it must follow that all God and God words alone can actually violate this right. And Islamic scholars would challenge Professor Sipapa's proposal just now that at least human rights there's an international regime, but Islamic scholar would say that rights granted by leaders, granted by the parliament, by the global UN governance, legislative assembly can be withdrawn and can very easily and can as easy as they are conferred. It has no teeth. It has no punishment. But for Islam, no individual, no institution has the authority to withdraw the rights that is conferred by God, and there are actually punishment as stated punishment, although that will be in the next life, but it's a form of teeth that will keep human beings in check. And for Islam, we talk about five indispensables, right? Which are included in the application of law in Muslim society. And these five indispensables are protection of life, protection of religion, protection of offspring or individual lineage, and the protection of property. So all the law that are written or the state governance or are drawn to protect these five rights. So these are the source. These are the written texts within it. But then in practice, we see violation of these things all the time, or contradictions all the time, because even in Islamic countries, there are or practiced by certain Islamist groups where it's subjected to political, economic, and social context at different places and different times. So a lot of political interests, self-interest come into play. So it's very, very common to see Islamic society that are not practicing what the text actually preach. So there's that. And then Islam is also a constraint in a lot of ways. We have to admit that the text, God's words are not perfect. It's not comprehensive. It views freedom quite differently, right? The Western emphasis on freedom is quite different from Islam. Freedom in the West may be the freedom to do things, to act, right? But for Islam, it's not the ability to act, it's the ability to become. And then Islamic scholar will see human freedom in terms of personal surrender to God, to divine view or will. Freedom is not inherent right. It's something that is given by God. And the more we practice Islam, the more we follow the path of Islam, the closer we are to freedom. And the most important thing for Islam, is that the pure freedom, as we understand it, only belong to God. So the more we are closer to God, the more we are free in the definition of Islam. But this become a lot of constraint, right? I mean, there are a lot of limitations because of this idea notion of what a Muslim can do and cannot do. So we have to find a ways to overcome it. There have been proposals among Islamic scholars that, we can pick and choose different Quranic verses, and in order to translate that into codification of the law that may be different from the original text. There is that. And for Islam, well, the main difference between Islam and the rest of the religion is that there is really no one spiritual leader that could influence or dictate the way interpretation of these practices and texts will be carried out. I take the example of, for example, the Catholic Pope. Certain Pope will be more open than others, more embracing of different gender practices, different religion, and that is individually led. And there is something to follow, but Islam doesn't have that, right? The emphasis on equality, the emphasis on many things, on equality of different country, different races. In some ways good, but in other ways there is really no leadership to bring about the change, this reinterpretation that will allow more broader, more liberal interpretation of this, and that will make sure that it will be accepted. There's no Islamic scholar that could embrace people who are LGBTQ, and then the rest of the followers will be okay. There's no such thing in Islam. There's no leadership in that way. So I think I leave it at that. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
This is since Fuadi actually mentioned about Catholic Christianity, then I go to you because I think that there is one common ground between Islam and Christianity and Catholicism, which is about God. Human beings are created by God. And this is different from Buddhism, of course. Yes, DC, please.
Thank you, Ajahn. I'm not a theologian, so I maybe cannot really comment too deeply on this from the Christian point of view. But I can say, maybe a little thing about it. In Christianity, we believe there are two the greatest laws, and the first one is love of God. So vertical relationship with God, and love of your neighbors, right? So love of human beings, and that's the horizontal love. So that's perhaps is also a good foundation for the understanding of the practice of human rights in Christianity. And of course, Ajahn mentioned something about the similarity between Islam and Christianity, Catholicism and Judaism, actually. And we are the three of us the three of them are Abrahamic religions. And for Christianity and Judaism, a lot of scholars would think of these two religions as maybe the foundation of human rights. But the thing that is interesting, actually, what Ajahn Fuadi has mentioned is the discrepancy between the ideal aspiration and the practice. And the practice at sometimes does not follow the ideal, aspiration towards, respect of the society, respect of members of the society. So if we go back to our first question again, because there is a connection with the second question, right? If we look at this discrepancy, right, between ideal and practice, then there is also a discrepancy of understanding of religion and what it is, right? It is, do we understand it as a textual product, like from interpretation of the text, or the faith, and the faith is the practice, right? So if we, connect it back again to human rights, then, and if we would like to have a clearer idea of what human rights is. And we understand that Ajahn Fuadi in the beginning has said that both concept, religion and human rights, are blurry, right? But if we want to have a more structured understanding of human rights, then we go back to the UN Declaration of Human Rights. And there, the freedom of worship is fundamental, right? Article 18, everybody has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. And but then the problem is the practice is not always good, right? Like, for example, the inclusion of this principle in legal texts in constitutions around the world are not sufficient as well. And then the practice does not corroborate or does not follow the ideal aspiration of human rights. So here then we discern that the enemy of human rights is actually not religion, but the practice of or the manipulation of it, and it's always political, right? So the enemy would be the political manipulation of religion or religious texts. So, well, in my opinion, back to the role of religion on human rights. First, without religion, then many rights are going to lose their roots, right? For a religious person, the right to believe ultimately means the right to assemble, the right to worship, the right to speak, the right to proselytize on the basis of this person, his or her belief, right? So this is the same all across religion. There's not one religion that does not want to have this right? So for a religious association, for example, a religious body, the right to exist means that then they would have the right to have property, for example, the right to worship collectively, the right to organize charities, and in Islam you have zakat, foundations, philanthropy organizations, for example. Without religion as well, and this is very important, then the politics can kick in, right? The state's function as a guarantor of human rights might be exaggerated without a religion. So religion here then will function as, a curb to the tendency of state to be absolutist, right? So if their function as the guarantor of human rights or the state's function as the guarantor of human rights is exaggerated, then this could make it omnicompetent, right? And then this would impede human rights at some point. And here is an interesting conundrum. Even in the situation of the state imposing secularism, right? Then here is another concept, or the separation between religion and politics, maybe initially to protect freedom of religion, but at some point, if it's over the board, in the end, it becomes discriminatory to people of religions, right? And we see this in France, for example, in which secularism somehow means no longer a protection of religious freedom, but the protection of the society from religion. And this is detrimental to human rights as well. So there is also the conundrum. So how to mitigate the situation and how to maybe come up with this solution of this, then, impede or curbing of state's power, because in the end, all practice is political. So the politics have to be impeded. And in this way, the power or the tendency of absolutism that every state will have. And here then we could, talk about the challenge to release freedom, or the challenge to human rights in terms of the basic protection of religion.
Thank
Until
you.
here.
Thank you, DC. I think we actually, but none of us, including myself, we don't see religion as enemy, of human rights. No one has said that until now. Although, in practice, there might be some practice, a religious practice, which may go against human rights. That's for sure. But then I think what you brought up and you always emphasize on this is actually the roles of politics and political leaders. And from international human rights point of view, the government is actually the primary, duty bearers. That's how we put it, and that they have primary duties to protect and promote human rights of their own citizen or population living in their country. So when you say, any enemy of human rights is politics, I tend to agree with you. And it depends, of course, the situation of human rights depends very much on, political situation, political leaders in some particular country. But in the same time, I think we cannot deny that religions which form part of culture have some roles to play as well, negatively or positively depends. Venerable Napan, your thought on this from Buddhism point of view?
Could you please repeat the
Yeah.
question again, Ajahn?
Yeah, how Buddhism work in practice when it comes to human rights.
Okay, thank you very much. And regarding what Ajahn DC shared, I think it's a very clear picture to me that Buddhism play a very crucial role for the politics. For example, in the past Ayutthaya period or even the Ratanakosin period, our rulers try to follow what the Buddha taught and try to take care of human rights of the people. Even they kill each other, try to be the great ruler. But at the end, because they try to follow what the Buddha taught, the number of people who get killed decrease. And I think for me, I think may I go back to the text and the context. It's very important because right now, I think it's religious institutions in Thailand, especially the Supreme Sangha Council of Mahathira Samakom. In my opinion, now I'm going to use my human right freedom of expression, that I think they fail to bring what the Buddha taught into action. Even they have a very strong structure, but kind of their conservatively. Even right now, they try to improve their roles, but I think regarding the speed of modern world, they still fail. So if we want to make it, if we want to bring it into practice, I think right now we need to consider both sides. I mean, religious institution and also like political institutions. We need to put it into like political party policy. Like for example, regarding the what do you call some Thautiam in English, that bill. Also, I joined on many panels on this and try to send a message that actually it's their own right, no matter who they are, man to man or women to women. If they love each other, they should have their own right to live happily together. And what the point of preventing them from being happy like that. So I think generally we fail to allow people to learn about what the Buddha taught exactly. And because of that, so many people don't know, especially when as Santibhaddo talk about the Buddhist scholar, or like 80% agree with the death punishment, right? Death penalty. I think this kind of also misinterpretation of the the Dhamma that I said before, the duties of universal king or great ruler or Chakravativat, because the third of the rules for great ruler is to let no wrongdoing prevail in the kingdom. And in the Sutta or Chakravati Sutta itself, it's also about if the king or the ruler allow thief or murderer, like how can I say, go away from what he already did, have no proper punishment, then it means the ruler send the message that anyone can kill anyone like this. And I think because of that, there's a misinterpretation that to kill people because of this is okay. To keep people from doing something wrong, especially badly wrong, like a murder, it's okay. But actually, that's not in the what the Buddha taught, but so many rulers take that as the right approach. And I think this is, if we want to bring it into practice, we need to bring out the text that the Buddha taught about nonviolence, compassion, and try to invite economic leader and political leader to take care of people. And also try to consider the context right now. Because right now, even the temple itself, religious institution, not that strong like in the past. So we also need to adjust our approach, our efficiency to bring what we were taught into practice. Like for example, Buddhism for SDGs. It's SDGs, right? So SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. So regarding number 3, good health and well-being. Number 4, education for all. Number 16, peace. And also number 7, partnership for the goal. Is kind of what the Buddha already did on his own time. He didn't just only teach people to reach inner peace. He also tried to transform social structure by convincing great rulers, economic leaders to take care of people. And this is the way that he kind of do it strategically and synergistically. But the religious institution right now, we fail. And in conclusion, I think if we want to bring it into practice, we need to consider context in at least 4 levels. First of all, community levels, because Buddhism in Thai culture play a very crucial role. So many cases, teaching is one thing, Buddhism is one thing, Buddhist culture is another thing. So we need to utilize it, and we need to decrease wrong understanding about that as well. So from community level, we need to bring it into practice in community level. In national level, we need national mechanism to monitor, to protect human rights, to support human rights, and also to promote peace and human rights. And we also need to consider the third level, it's about regional level. We need to consider the outer factor that affect, perception of Thai people or Thai Buddhists, because so many hate speech and the current situation, some extreme use it to manipulate people. And because of that, they kind of have a new paradigm towards different faith. Because in the teaching itself, the Buddha didn't teach Buddhists to be enemy of anyone, because everyone share the suffering. And the last one, in the global level, we don't have like the highest leader like Pope in Christianity. So it's also quite difficult for Buddhists in the global level. And even so many people consider His Holiness Dalai Lama as a highest leadership, but I think in Thailand, we see it differently. So my point is about the global level, regional level, national level, and community level. They influence each other. And if we want to if we want to bring what the Buddha taught, Buddhism into practice regarding human rights, we need to see how those 4 levels play a crucial role in the big picture. Thank you. Sorry for quite long answer.
Yeah, thank you, Napan. I think you touched upon the last question already, which is about actually how to deal with increasing intolerance in the region, not only in the country, but also in the region in South Asia. As I said, we see increasing intolerance, in in South Asia, in Thailand, in Indonesia, in the Philippines, against, whoever may be different from us. And I feel that more and more the sense of us and them is so clear that, people do not actually restrain themselves from violating the rights of others.